No black cats, just straight facts.
Triple P certified.
Listen, we can talk about odds all day. It doesn't matter what the odds are. It matters what's gonna happen.
Welcome to the Perfect Parlay Pursuit. We are back to recap UFC Vegas 50 and break down UFC Fight Night London, Aspinall versus Volkov. I'm joined as always by Dan, by Alex. We're coming off one of the best, most successful weeks in podcast history. Not necessarily talking about the fights, I'm talking about the birth of my daughter. More on that later, more on the fights. First, Dan, Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. What is going on, Triple P fam? Congratulations to our fearless leader, Lukey CK, and the new princess. I'm not going to put the name out there. That's private.
Yeah, hey, listen, but if you want to know the name and the picture, join the Patreon, because I dropped a picture of her on the Patreon. So there you go. You can find it there. We won't dox her publicly for the YouTube people, just for the people willing to pay money to get the information, because money talks, bullshit walks in America. But either way, one of the most successful weeks of my personal life. I spent 2 nights sleeping on 2 hospital chairs pushed together. My girlfriend is a savage. She's a lot tougher than half these guys who wilted this past weekend. We'll get into that later. But women around the world, I respect you more than ever now. It was sight to behold, seeing what she was going through. She's tougher. She's pretty much tough enough to be a UFC fighter. And I told her, now you're in recovery, but you got to visualize it like one of those fighters that went through a beating and got kicked and then had to but like came through a war and won, and it's like, yeah, you're beat up, but you can kind of coast back and like enjoy the Valhalla feeling of having done that, right? So I told her, I'm like, enjoy those war wounds, you earned them. A lot of benefits about having a child. I got so much motivation. Yes, we had a bit of a rough week uploading for you guys and getting the Patreon content out. That's on me. She went into labor on Wednesday. We were in the hospital until Friday, so I wasn't as active as I usually am. That won't always happen. That being said, guys, a lot of benefits to having a child. My girlfriend now has double D's. Only negative, I can't get a suck in edgewise. So, I'm on standby. I'm in line. I took my number and I'm waiting. It's going to be a while. So either way, same old story, same old song and dance, guys. Coming off a weekend. We watched UFC Vegas 50. That was my little girl's first fight night. What a great night. How'd you guys do gambling wise?
I'll give it to Alex here if his stream could work.
I muted him because he's driving. There's a lot of road noise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, not too bad myself personally. I mean, not too good myself, I should say. Terrible night for me. Once again, in classic parlay fashion, I'm 1 or 2 fights away on multiple parlays from changing my life forever. And now it just changed my life for the worse. But I had some amazing news. It was an amazing week. I got to see a baby the next day, grabbed some cheeks. And, we're giving Luke all this credit. But, the most important news is that I'm an uncle. I'm the funkle, the fun uncle for you people who aren't really hip to uncle terminology out here. But yes, I'm here. I'm alive. I'm better than ever. And, are they actually going across the pond with all the global conflict right now? I knew that might be up in the air.
They're going across the pond.
We're good to go.
We're good to go. Wheels up.
All right, so they're good to go. First UFC event in London in quite some time. Hyped up. There's a lot of familiar faces on this card, and I'm actually very excited for this one. Dan won. What rank is the Tiago?
I think he's referencing the fantasy league we got going on here. Tiago Santos, what was he ranked? Let me take a look. I believe he was within the top 6 or 7. He was ranked number 8 according to Tapology. I don't know if that's congruent with the UFC, but
yeah. So Dan scored some points with Magomed on Goliath. You might want to drop him from your team though after seeing that performance. Rough one in my opinion. How did you guys feel about the fights?
Yeah, well, you started off with the main event. I couldn't agree more. I felt it was very underwhelming. Santos is really proving me wrong again and again in the Walker fight. Now in this fight, I'm starting to see a pattern. He's just got these sledgehammers, these machetas, and he's just keeping guys at bay. I mean, in the Johnny Walker fight, I put a lot on Walker that night because I didn't think he threw enough volume. But look at Ankalaev. He didn't throw a lot of volume either. Maheta is just keeping these guys at bay with his power, and it's producing a lot of low volume light heavyweight contests. I don't know that we can really blame this guy's opponents anymore. I think that he's just a scary individual to be standing against. So Santos is a new father himself. Shout out to Yana Kunitskaya, who just had his baby, and he's or is pregnant with his baby. I'm not sure if she had it yet, but either way, Santos is somebody I'm going to be looking to bet as an underdog moving forward because I don't think his last breath is in him yet. I think he's still got some in the tank. I know coming off the knee injury and the John Jones loss, I was ready to fade him. I thought he can't have another peak in his career, but I really see this guy getting kind of matched appropriately on his way down and then kind of excelling back up into kind of that mid-range gatekeeper status of the light heavyweight division. But overall, lackluster main event, not really exciting. And Magomed Ankalaev he doesn't get it. These Russian fighters all the time, they think that Americans have similar values to Russians where they go in and they say, oh, I really wanted to fight 5 rounds and prove that I'm able to fight for 5 rounds. And it's like, nobody wants to see that, dude. We want to see finishes. Like, we don't value your work ethic because you were willing to go out there and like fight for 25 whole minutes. It's like, nobody cares, dude. They want to see finishes. Now we hate you actually because you told us that you weren't trying to finish your opponent. That's why I hate Rafael Dos Anjos right now, because he was like, yeah, I felt bad. I felt like Moicano's corner should have stopped it, and I was pretty much skating and then just kind of coasting and ready to win a decision. And then he was cracking me, and I was like, oh, geez, yeah, you deserve to get your ass knocked out for that shit. That's negligence. That's criminal. You signed an agreement in the back that you're going to fight as hard as you can the entire time. You did not do that. You admitted to basically fixing the fight, essentially, Rafael. So not a fan of Rafael anymore. Not a fan of guys who do that. I was not a fan of Usman for a long time, Mr. I only gave 30% in there. Like, don't tell me that shit. But that being said, Usman's won me back. I'm sure RDA can, and Ankalaev is going to be a longer road because he doesn't even speak a lick of English, and Russia's not necessarily in the best place right now as far as publicity, which brings me to my next point. So Alex and I both have a friend, a former wrestling teammate that we went to high school with. He's actually in Poland right now, and we at this podcast we launched a Patreon. And we told our Patreon audience that if you wanted to get the first 10 members got the first month free, right? So I said, Venmo me if you were one of the first 10, and I will send you back the first month's membership of $10, right? So only 2 out of the 10 actually took me up on that rebate. So now Dan, Alex, and I have this $80 that is sitting there, and I could either just distribute it back to Alex and Dan, or what I thought, my friend posted from Poland. You can read it right here. He said, we're raising money here in Poland to gather school supplies, tablets, shoes, sporting goods, and experiences for Ukrainian children that had to abruptly leave their homes. DM me if you'd like to help. There's his Instagram handle right there if you want to DM him. The story is he and some coworkers visited a locally owned hotel in Poland. It was there that they met an amazingly kind hotel owner who had opened his space to feed over 80 Ukrainian children. Now, they said they had the opportunity to chat with some of these kids and basically blah, blah, blah. You can read it right here. But the thing that I thought was interesting was he said that they'd also like to enjoy being kids, so they want to get them some yard games, basketballs, soccer balls, etc. Some of these kids even requested boxing gloves. He said, these kids are tough. When I heard that suggestion, I was thinking that he was about to hear Xbox, PlayStation, and he did a double take. So what we're going to do is if Dan and Alex agree, and granted, they could be Krampus, and they could snatch this money right out of those Ukrainian kids' hands. But if Dan and Alex agree, I will take that $80 that we were going to rebate back to the Patreon audience. You generous, kind 8 who did not take me up on the rebate. I will roll that money into a donation for these Ukrainian children to get them some boxing gloves. And I will throw in some money of my own, and I'll take whatever Dan and Alex want to give as well. And we will donate to get these kids some boxing gloves. I thought it was only fitting that the PvP Army, after all the talk we did about the bravery of Usyk and Lomachenko and all of the great combat athletes that we've seen from the Ukraine come out and fight for their country. We want to remain relatively apolitical. I definitely don't want any Russians, on my ass here. But you get what I'm trying to say. These kids want some boxing gloves. They want some games, and we're going to help them out. These kids are innocent in all this. They have nothing to do with it, and we're going to do what we can. So, Dan, Alex, what do you think about that?
80 divided by 3, that's like roughly 25 a piece. I might want a piece of that pie, Luke. I might want a piece of that pie.
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys didn't win gambling last weekend. I know you.
No, I did. I did. I was profitable.
Okay, well, we'll get into your profits later, then, Mister.
No, listen. I don't want to.
Look at this empty classroom. There's no boxing gloves
here. Let me get my face in the screen. Give the money to the Ukrainian kids. I was only kidding.
Okay, don't you want
I was about to say
on the linoleum floor of this schoolroom?
I was about to say, Dan, that's cold-blooded. That's cold-hearted. I already donated myself, but I was still willing to give the money forward. You saved yourself. I thought you were going to stay, I thought you were going to keep kayfabe here and maybe keep it going a little bit longer. But I appreciate you guys. I appreciate that, Luke, a lot. That's one of my best friends in the entire world who's getting married coming this September, I think. We got a bachelor party coming up. You guys are going to get some inside exclusive content to the bash party. All the dead hookers, you'll see the pictures of them first. You know how bachelor parties are. We're not going to Vegas, so I don't have to keep it in Vegas, you know?
Well, listen, the donation will be made, and we will make sure to get some pictures for the Patreon members who were kind enough to not take me up on that rebate, and so you can see where your money went. I told him, I said, these kids asking you for boxing gloves, I think the reason they were asking you is because they already asked their parents, and the parents were probably like, no, I'm not giving you boxing gloves so you can beat the shit out of your brother. It's kind of like when you ask your fun uncle, as Alex claimed to be, for a drum set because your parents won't buy you one, or a lizard. Like they were like, oh, this stranger will get me the boxing gloves I want. I'm surprised they didn't ask me for porno mags.
We should get boxing gloves. Let's just go, instead of giving them the money, we'll give them what they want. We'll give them boxing gloves that say PPP on them. How about that? $80 worth of triple P gloves.
And then in parentheses we'll put punching Putin's pussy because they're Ukrainian, right? That's it'll motivate them.
And Luke, I forgot what I was gonna say actually. Oh, you were saying that thing about Russia and how you don't want any Russians coming at us. Well, don't worry, you won't have to worry about that one little bit. They're all taken off of Instagram, so I'm sure YouTube is next. And so you don't have to worry about ruffling any Russian feathers.
Well, and speaking of uncountrying people and unpersoning people, I think that, this podcast really needs to champion an effort to get some answers behind why the UFC is removing the flags of the fighters in their league. Why are they not allowing their fighters to use the flags that they say they belong to? Why do we see this with Hong Kong? Why do we see this with Afghanistan? Why do we see this probably soon with Russia? Or better question, why is this so arbitrary that we don't see it with Russia when we see it in so many other arenas? What is the motivation? I think Bryce Mitchell was onto something in his post-fight press conference interview. We don't know what's going on here, and I want some damn answers. And I'm with him. I'm going to take my boots on the fertile soil of New Jersey, the Garden State, and I'm going to lock and load, back my back up to the edge of the water and say, come and take it if they want to try to. But I ain't going overseas no more. It ain't me. I ain't the fortunate son.
I think you're safe. I think we're good. We're good on the invasion front.
Guys, I'm going to share my screen real quick because I had a really, really exciting evening as far as gambling. It ultimately did not pan out the way that I would have liked, and I'll show you why. So this was my Patreon ticket. This is what I posted in the Patreon. If you were betting with me, this is what you were tailing. And if you take a look at the rebuild parlay, I switched my pick of Mazzo after I saw the weigh-ins, but obviously I was in the hospital. I didn't have time to make official swaps and switches, everything like that. But luckily, Mazzo was one of my least confident picks, so she was only in the 14-fight parlay. She didn't even make the 12, right? And Chuckwee did, but he didn't make the 6. Now, if you're looking at the 6, you're seeing that to break even, we needed McKinney, Roundtree, and Yusuf. So McKinney blew our break-even opportunity, but he also blew a rebuild parlay that I also dropped in the Patreon as soon as I placed it, with plenty of time for people who are tailing to also place the bet. The rebuild parlay after Mazzo after Nchukwi went down, featured Brundage. I switched to Maverick, Aldrich, Semmelsberger, Pereira, McKinney, Roundtree, Yusuf, Ankalaev, $12 bet to pay $1,312. McKinney was the only one keeping me out of the money in that. If McKinney had won, I today would be $1,300 richer, and if you tailed those picks in the Patreon, you would be too. This was the first losing week since launching the Patreon, the first week where we did not cash on any of those tickets that I posted in the Patreon. Dan did profit, however, so his picks were in the Patreon as well, I believe. If you, I mean, unless you were placing bets after the ones you sent me, I don't know.
Yes. Well, let me get into
what happened.
Yeah, listen. Let me get into it. Okay?
I don't even want to hear about it. No, I don't even want to get into it. If you're making money without telling our people, then I don't even want to hear about it because that's borderline negligence right there.
No,
Daniel.
it's not. And here's why. Okay, all the picks that I sent, which were out on the Patreon, they blew up. Right? They torpedoed. Okay. So the amount that I won, it was about $150. It was at the end, the last 3 fights, which I consider dirty way of winning, right? I barely even count it as winnings, right? Because it's dirty. Like you're
chasing your losses, you're kind of embarrassed to even be doing it.
Yeah, so I won big last week, right? I won $1,300. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna just go into some of those winnings from last week. I could afford to play this amount, which I normally wouldn't play. I was very confident in Sadiq Yusuf, another one of my fantasy picks there, Song Yadong, and Magomed Ankalaev. So I said, you know what? Even though they're 3 heavy favorites, not a lot of value there. I'll parlay them together, and at least I'll have a profitable night. But it wasn't worthy of putting out on the Patreon. And with the last 3 fights, they're all heavy favorites. It's like, yeah, dude, nice pick. Like the last 3, they're all like minus 300 and over. So it was a dirty way to win. But
if anybody was tailing you, you shouldn't have left them. You should have helped dig them out of the trench you dug them into. You should have at least thrown them an oar so that they could row their life raft to shore.
Listen, brother, the amount that I bet on that to get that small amount of winnings, no one's betting that, okay? It was only off of a huge amount that I won the previous week.
I think they might be, dude. You see some of the guys in our Discord. I mean, they're throwing serious money around, and they're throwing euros, which are way more valuable than the U.S. dollar right now. And I'm just amazed. I'm just amazed at their perseverance and, the fact that they can put their nuts on the table and put 1,000 euros on a girl fight. I don't think I could ever do that.
What does that even equate to?
Yeah. I mean, okay. So that being said, every week since launching the Patreon, we've been profitable, including a week where I gave $3,000 worth of winning bets out in the Patreon. That was the week prior to last. So if you're in the Patreon, we're going to hit these little bumps, these little turbulent bumps. It was honestly a week where I wasn't able to give you my all because, like I said, I was in the hospital. I spent 2 nights sleeping on 2 chairs pushed together, meeting my new daughter. So it was a week that I wasn't able to give you my all. That's on me. Won't happen again unless I have another child. But which is kind of long at this point, actually, because, you have 1, you got to have 2. You have 2, you got to have 3. And then, I would bring her on the YouTube channel, but I'm going to wait until she's toy opening age. And then we can get her own YouTube channel. And then that way we can start making money off these kids. You know what I mean, Dan?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're already selling her identity on the Patreon. So you're starting off real hot with making money off your daughter. I love it. Yes.
So, Alex, I don't know what you're doing over there. I don't know why you're not locked and loaded focus. I'm going to go ahead and advise everybody not to take Alex's picks this week at all. He did the worst out of all of us last week, I believe. I think him and Dan edged him by 1 pick. I had
8 out of 6.
My picks out of the 14, I had Ankalaev, Youssef, Roundtree, Pereira, Semmelsberger, Aldrich, Jackson, Brundage, and Kennedy. That is 9 out of
14. 9
out of 14. So I got 5 wrong. I got 9 correct. 9 out of 14. Not too shabby. The ones I got wrong in Chukwi, he was kind of coasting, winning that fight. Got caught with a flying knee. Mazo, like I said, Maverick, the weigh-ins, and I knew that she was risky. She was my least confident pick. Jones, not mad about it. I think he had some good moments. I like 5-star. I'm going to bet on him again, even at better odds, and I'll be profitable long-term doing so. He's best when you get him as an underdog. McKinney, again, this is a learning experience for him. I really would like to talk about this fight. He dropped him twice with 2 different flying knees. He's throwing head kicks. He's grappling them. He's doing really well. He just gassed out. I mean, it sucks. He gassed out. He kind of quit. I'm not going to fault him because of the effort he threw at the beginning. I'm not going to sit there and say that this guy is like looking for ways out of fights. He's looking for ways into fights, and it's not his fault that he just found himself without any bullets left in his gun. You know what I mean? He shot all his bullets. At least we have guys like Randy Costa who don't even shoot all their bullets and quit. So we have girls like Amanda Nunes who doesn't even shoot all her bullets and quits again in a world title fight. McKinney's not in a world title fight. McKinney took this fight on short notice. McKinney came off of extremely fast turnaround, and he's fighting a veteran, a hammer, one of the best looking guys in the division, Drew Dober. I'm gonna give him a pass just this once, but man, I'd rather have $1,300 and his pass back. You know what I mean?
I'm locked in. Luke's crazy. I'm having a little bit of a turbulent day. I've had a very turbulent day today, and I'm locked in. I'm ready for these fights, dude. I got my guy Tom Aspinall here fighting. He's on the Euro under Kangs. But here's the deal, fellas. I heard Luke go on about the Afghanistan flag, and nothing really pisses me off more than that. Like, I don't even necessarily understand. I thought we were like cool in the gang with Afghanistan now, besides the fact that they have all of our military equipment still. But besides that, I didn't know there were any issues. I mean, do they have WMDs again? Fake ones or what? What's going
I was
on
in the bathroom. I don't even know what you're talking about right now.
I'm talking about Afghanistan.
Listen, the policy should just be whatever country you're from, you should be able to have that flag. Otherwise, we're just as bad as these censoring authoritarian governments that we are, trying to topple and throw democracies in, or at least used to back in the neocon day. But listen, if you're from a country, you should have that flag. It's why are we
from Canada?
Bullshit. Huh?
Unless you're from Canada.
Oh yeah, we should just totally tear that flag up and replace it with something more aesthetically pleasing than a red maple leaf.
Oh yeah, something like Old Glory, I'd say.
Well,
let's keep that one.
Stand out to you guys like from the night. I mean, I want to kind of touch on Khalil Roundtree. Inspiring performance. That's the Khalil Roundtree you love to see, man. Just an absolute destroyer. Like, Khalil is a Terminator when he is on, and I know he was focused and he was on, and I loved his post-fight speech. I loved everything about it. What do you guys think about Khalil? Dan, you picked. So when I look at all of our picks, right? When I see like where we were wrong, right? Alex and I had Roundtree, Dan had Robertson. Alex and I had Moraes, Dan had Yadong. So if we just switch those, if Dan could have pulled us onto Yadong, and if we could have pulled Dan onto Roundtree, we're 100% in the main card right there. PUP certified. We're making picks into the triple B certifieds that should be, and we're taking away ones that shouldn't be. If we listen to each other more, I'd really like to do that. Now, granted, we went 3 out of 5 triple B certified last week, well over 50%. That's fine. The only ones we got wrong were, McKinney and Nchukwi, which again,
hey Luke,
one of those guys under 200.
Luke, do you like pulling Dan on Yadong?
I would love to have had Dan pull me on Yadong.
On my dog.
We're not on the Patreon yet, fellas. Get your act up. Jeez. By the way, also, you both were on Mutinho, I believe, and I was on Canetti.
No, I was on Canetti. I was
the only one. I was the lone wolf on Mutinho, and that brings me.
And you picked him.
You
picked him as a favorite, dude. Like, come on.
Yeah, but that brings me to my next point. Chris Taoni, he should be put in prison. Like, real prison, jail, maybe even be a prisoner of war, maybe even I'm not gonna say it, but
dude, Moutinho's coach should be put in prison, possibly prison of war, because the dude doesn't teach him any striking defense. He goes out there and eats 45 shots to the head within 5 seconds. What do you want this to happen? His eyes were rolling back into his head. McKinney was a worse stoppage because Keith Peterson has absolutely no consistency. He'll go out there and smoke cigarettes and drink alcohol before the Dominic Cruz fight and stop that in 2 seconds. He lets Drew Dober get rocked in the head with 2 Masvidal flying knees, drop twice, and nothing happens. And then he pulls him off McKinney within 3 seconds. At least let McKinney get his ass whooped more if you're gonna, you know what I mean? Like, at least let McKinney.
That's honestly the craziest thing to me is almost every single fight since Keith Peterson has, messed up on that Dominic Cruz bout, I think that Dominic Cruz is watching those fights and is like, what the fuck is going on, dude? If I could have had any of this amount of time, I would have came back and whooped Cejudo's ass. But you stopped the fight in 2 seconds for me because you already don't like me. Like it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. There's no consistency whatsoever with reffing. Generally, all these guys, they have different. I had a comment on a post on Instagram the other day. It's like you either have Chris Taoni calling it if somebody fucking looks even slightly in danger. And then you have Dan Murgliata, let him die. Let him die in there. Like there's no consistency between the refs. They really need to get this commission into check. There's no consistency with the judging. Like you brought up Alex Pereira, that fight was like very, very close, in my opinion. A very close fight. I thought it would go split decision maybe either way. But when I heard 30-27, all I thought was, okay, the UFC really, really wants this Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira 2 or 3 because they fought twice already in kickboxing.
Dan.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very subjective sport, right? It's subjective within the refereeing. It's subjective within the judging. It's not baseball, all you got to do is know this strike zone and if the ball is on this side of the line or that side. This is a whole different ball game. It's very.
I mean, come on, baseball. Tie goes to the runner. Baseball's a little subjective too, Dan. Let's be real. I mean,
it is, but it's.
They can have a robot strike. They can have a robot algorithm judge every ball and strike, but they don't. They still sit old one-eyed Willie from 1960 on the mound every single day. Like it's.
I'm glad they do.
Yeah, because baseball is a traditionalist sport, and it's the American pastime. And
no, listen, you just can't have
the American pastime.
You got pitchers using spider tack.
The American pastime of finding
the
American pastime of finding any single possible way to cheat always. We had the steroids era. We got the spider tack era. We got the Chicago Black Sox. I could name a million off the top of my head.
Recording signs, recording dugout signs.
The garbage cans for the
Houston Astros. Cork in your bat.
Cork in your bat, baby. Every single thing, like they will take any advantage they can. Alex Rodriguez chewing gum that. No, he had like gum that would like release like steroids of sorts directly into his bloodstream.
Well, I don't know how we got to cheating. That doesn't have anything to do with subjectivity within the game, but that I didn't think anything was too egregious. I could definitely see McKinney being stopped a little bit too soon. I could definitely see. I mean, the Kennedy one, like, dude, he was destroying him. Moutinho,
by the way,
all he's good at is getting smashed in the face, and the fans love it. And they loved it so much they made him a favorite in this fight, which was hilarious. But whatever, better for me, I guess. Semi the Jedi, man. This guy's a freaking caveman, all right? He is not gonna. This is a guy who's gonna fight for your money, okay? Semi the Jedi, brother. I know Lukey was probably on pins and needles all throughout the fight. He was getting dominated by this young beefcake stud who's just all over him with the wrestling. I'm thinking this AJ Fletcher guy might be a real deal. He's totally dominating Semi, but Semi coming back like a Semi baby, all 18 wheels roaring down, and just for the whole second half of the fight, domination from a guy who was getting dominated. That's what I love to see. That's stepping up to the plate.
And Luke, we've seen it a million times in our beloved sport, the best sport in the world, folk style wrestling. How many times do you see a young, handsome stud who's got the world by the balls, 24-0, and he comes out there and he just meets a dog, dude. Yeah, he might have got 6 takedowns in the first period, but this kid has no quit in him. Semi the Jedi is a force to be reckoned with, but I am very excited to bet on AJ Fletcher in his next UFC fight because he impressed me a lot in that first round. He did gas, but wasn't he last-minute replacement?
Not too sure about that, but I can tell you that he was undefeated going into that fight, and it was really, really cool to see Semi come back like that. I wasn't active in the Discord during that fight, but you're right, Dan. I was going crazy. I was holding my little baby in my arms, so I had no free hands, but I was sitting there like watching the TV. In the whole first round, I was completely demoralized. I was like, man, he's just accepting this bottom position. Like, what's going on? But then came back in round 2, ready for action. That's exactly all you could. That's all you can ask in a guy that you bet on is somebody who will show up in round 2, even having been in the worst position you could be in round 1, and just reset, regroup, get the win. Now we're 1-1 going into 3, and that round was won by the guy with the bigger heart, the bigger gas tank, the muscles that were built for go, not for show. Surprisingly, the football player, not necessarily a folk style wrestler by background, I don't believe, but he used folk style wrestling to his advantage, got the fight to the ground, and I think Semelsberger is just going to get better with time, man. He's super good. He had that wild fight with Chaos Williams, proved how tough he was, but he can come back and fight smarter and smarter each outing. And I think eventually he'll start to get into that upper echelon. Really amazing fight. Loved it. Love Semi the Jedi. Maryland fighting and winning in rounds 2 and 3. That's what Maryland does.
Here's to you, Greg.
Yes, sir. And to me now too. I'm
but
way too.
What did you guys think of that Pereira versus Bruno Silva decision?
I thought that Pereira definitely had the better strikes. They definitely seemed like if I were to have like a pain index, he was probably inflicting more pain. But I agree. There were because I was all in on Pereira, like every parlay.
Yeah.
But there were many moments in the fight where I was like, dude, Silva he's the aggressive one. He's the one coming forward. He's landing a good amount of volume himself. So I don't know.
Had a couple takedowns.
They didn't really do much, to be honest. But yeah, I'd like to watch that fight again. It was high impact, high volume, a lot of fun to watch. Hey, I was happy with the decision.
Were you sweating the decision at all? Were you sweating it at all?
Not really. I mean, I thought there was a chance.
Not really.
I was not really sweating it. I was pretty sure that he won 2 out of 3 rounds. I thought all the rounds were close. That's the thing. I thought all of them were close. So that's where like the 30-27 comes in. It's like if they're all close and like you're just thinking like maybe one of them went to the other guy, but it's like, well, maybe none of them went to the other guy. Maybe they all were close, but they all thought this guy edged them. So the fight that I really need to apologize for is Marlon Moraes. Like, this is a guy, 2 times now I've let videos on Chael Sonnen's YouTube channel sway a financial decision that has come back to bite me in the ass. So one is with Marshall Rogan Inu coin. I watched Chael Sonnen's YouTube video about Marshall Rogan Inu coin literally an hour after it comes out. This video at the time it dropped that I saw, it had 1,000 views. So I'm early on this, right? And I go, listen, Uncle Chael says jump, I say how high. You're telling me it's a crypto coin named after Joe Rogan's dog that helps fighters? That's too many buzzwords that are my interests in a row. I have to give you my money. So I buy into Marshall Rogan Inu, and Chael, the coin is in the dumpster, dude. It's in the dump. It's in the gutter. So that's one. Number 2 is he comes out with a video talking about Marlon Moraes. Marlon Moraes saying, "Oh, I sometimes have delusions that I'm going to come back and I'm going to come out of retirement. Boy, I saw Marlon Moraes in the gym. He looked so good. Even though he's a lighter weight class than me, he made me reconsider." I was like, I don't want to come back if this is what these guys are doing. And it's like, okay, so I'm like, man, Marlon's looking good in the gym, huh? Marlon's looking fast. Marlon's looking motivated. Marlon's going to come back and he's going to show this young guy what for. Not what happened. We knew that too. And I'm the biggest Marlon Moraes hater out here. I've faded him against every single one of his opponents. I think these guys picked him against Sandhagen or somebody along the lines of Font, one of these guys. One of these guys, I remember I was against him and everybody else was pretty much on him. And I took his opponent as an underdog and cashed up big. Now I was trying to get the value of Marlon as a big underdog, thinking, he's a professional. He's a former title challenger. He's got great management. He's got all the right things that's going to light a fire under his ass and give him the tools that he needs to get the win here. Marlon Moraes went in there and did what Marlon Moraes does in all of the fights that he's let us down. He doesn't really have a ton of heart, doesn't really have a ton of fight IQ, puts himself in vulnerable positions. The story on Marlon Moraes has been written, read, and just like Uncle Weezy says over on Pub Sports Radio, when a guy tells you who he is, believe him. Marlon Moraes is a quitter.
Yeah.
For me, it was more of I just didn't think very highly of Song Yadong, like whatsoever. I thought he kind of sucked. I thought he lost the fight against Chito Vera. Maybe they're both just good, him and Chito Vera. But then you see Chito Vera lose one to Jose Aldo, and then
almost lose to Davey Grant. Or didn't he lose to Davey Grant? Right? He lost.
No, that was Jonathan Martinez.
No, Chito Vera just fought Davey Grant.
No, he did not lose to Davey Grant, and I think Davey Grant fought somebody else. He might have. Yeah, he was losing the first couple rounds, and they tapped him out in typical Chito Vera fashion, or knocked him out, or something of that nature. I believe. I
don't remember him fighting Davey Grant.
He fought Davey. He fought Davey Grant earlier in his career, I think. I don't think it was
twice, guys. He fought him twice.
Recently?
Okay.
Yes, I'll get it. Just talk in the meantime. I'm looking it up.
All right, yeah. So Any other impressive fights? I mean,
No, we
Miranda
can move
Maverick.
on to next week's card. We can start breaking down next week's card, I think, unless you guys.
Oh,
have
but I
something.
got big news. My very, very, very good friend Jay Ariza is fighting not this weekend, next Saturday in the Poconos. And I think it's Maverick 18. Watch it.
Mayhem
Jay,
on the Mountain 2.
yeah, it's Maverick 18. It's on March, I think, 26th. March 26th, Maverick 18. Jay Ariza, my buddy, my former roommate. We used to live together. He is fighting, and he's going to win. It's his first fight. It's his debut. He's a purple belt at Hassett's. You know how us Hassett's boys get down. You see Joe Selecki out here. Jay's going to go out there and kill it. So definitely watch his fight.
Couple questions. Number one, can we bet on it?
Probably in person
No.
in the Poconos. If you can get to the Poconos. And
Okay. Question number two.
The mountain people watching ringside, you can get a couple bets off.
What's his style,
I will-
Alex? How does he fight? What's his style?
He's got some nice striking. He wrestled in high school. He's a great wrestler. He wrestled at Seagulls. You know Seagulls, Luke? The freestyle wrestling club.
I know Seagulls. I know Seagulls.
Okay. He wrestled at Seagulls. He also wrestled for Woodstown, obviously, where we're all from. And
I'm not from Woodstown.
I think he actually wrestled a year in college on the practice squad, if I'm not mistaken. He's a good wrestler. He's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. And he's got some nice hands too. He's got some nice kicks. He's very long. The fight's at 155. I forget his opponent's name. But apparently his opponent's a big wrestler.
You ever see him in a street fight? Fight
No,
at a
but
party?
We've sparred together, like in the gym and stuff.
Nah, that's not what I'm talking about.
I've
How
never
is he
seen
drunk?
him in
What's he like when he's drunk?
Oh, he's the man. He's the most laid back guy ever. He talks real.
He's not a
He
killer.
talks,
He's not a killer,
slow.
huh?
He's smooth as molasses.
Oh
He's
man.
got long ass hair, big beard. No, he's a killer. He's gonna probably knock this guy Spark out.
All right. Well, that's a nice little preview of Maverick 17 coming to you live from the
I think
Poconos.
18.
18.
Did I say 17?
No, I just came up with that number.
Okay, yeah, it's Maverick 18 in the Poconos, Twin Rock Resort, something like that. I'll be
All right.
there. I'll be there if you want to link up, hang out, get a couple beers, talk fights, bet on the fight with me against Jay, and I'll bet on him.
That's
That's
illegal.
about it.
It's illegal to be in tandem with someone else betting on both sides of a bet. Okay? I read it in the DraftKings book. I know the rules of betting. That's illegal. It's very illegal. So don't put that out there. Luke, put down the thing.
I haven't trained with him in months.
financial
So I have no insider
something else.
information.
Either way, guys,
Oh.
this is we're 38 minutes in and we got to get to the main card of UFC Fight Night London, Volkov versus Aspinall.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all for joining us. As always, we are going to take you through the main card. We got about 7 fights to break down here, including a pretty solid co-main event. So without further ado, let's just get into it. We got a Russian fighter who we're pretty high on this card, Alexander Volkov, headlining as usual. Drago comes in. He is 6'7" tall, 81-inch reach, born in Russia, fighting out of Moscow, and he's coming off a win in his last outing against Marcin Tybura, who is no slouch lately. Before that, a loss to the title challenger in Cyril Gane, the interim champ, by decision. Prior to that, knocked out Alistair Overeem. Before that, finished Walt Harris. Before that, a big night for Dan Curtis Blades versus Volkov. I think he won like $4,000 that night or something. That was back in June of 2020. That was his last loss besides to the interim champ Cyril Gane. And he's taking on this rising stud, Tom Aspinall. And it's one of those fights, man, where me and my cousin, we talk about this every once in a while, where he says, like, when you got a rising star and they first get that main event spot, fade them. Because that's when they get that resistance. That's when they get that surprise, especially if they're a young guy. And when I look at this fight, I think that, Aspinall is the grappler. And I think that's going to have a great advantage. Lately, he's been getting guys out of there with his hands in a lot of ways, like ground and pound, but also knocked out Jake Collier pretty quick. Obviously, it's Jake Collier, but he's come back and shown us some more resilience since then. So I think that Aspinall is a guy who's doing what he should do to guys when they give him these low-level guys like Boudreaux and Collier. He gets them out of there within 2 minutes, right? Then you give him a guy like Arlovsky, again, out of there by, with a rear naked choke, second round. You give him Spivak. Again, we saw what Spivak did to Hardy, right? Well, look what he did to Spivak. So it's like he's showing that he can make these definitive statements against the competition that's still not the best. Well, this is the competition that's the best. I mean, Volkov is amongst the best of the best. He's got 43 fights to his name. I'm really nervous about picking Aspinall on this one. I still have him probably, if I'm looking at my if you're in the Patreon, I've already placed my early thoughts in terms of how I'm organizing my parlays in terms of confidence. Aspinall makes the 9. So I go a perfect parlay, a 12, a 9, a 6, and a 3. Aspinall doesn't make the 3. He doesn't make the 6. He makes the 9. That's how I'm looking at Aspinall in terms of confidence. He's a plus 100 underdog. Fantastic odds for a guy who is probably going to be a favorite every other fight after this if he wins this fight. If Aspinall wasn't as good of a grappler as he is, I would probably be a little bit nervous, but we've seen Volkov sat down on his ass. The Curtis Blades fight comes to mind. It's not an easy task to do, and it's getting harder and harder every time Volkov comes out there, guys. I mean, he is a tall drink of water. This is an athletic man. But Aspinall's young. He's a stud. He's efficient. And I think he can ground Volkov, pound Volkov, and possibly get the finish. Aspinall inside the distance is my official play. What do you guys think?
Yeah, this is one where I would really rather learn from it. There's a lot to learn from this, specifically on the Aspinall side. Volkov is the consummate gatekeeper, right? I think you brought this up as well. So this is a guy where when you square off against Volkov, you really find out about the fighter going up against him if he's a young guy like Aspinall. I think he's got the goods, man. I love his boxing. I think it's enough to get himself to an advantageous position. Cutting off the cage, getting into the inside, and then from there, because I don't think he's the best wrestler in the world, but if he can get a good position up against that cage, I think from that position he can get some takedowns and let that jiu-jitsu that I think is really more of his grappling skill set rather than wrestling go to work. So yeah, I think it's going to have to be a combination though, because if we're just going with strict, straight up boxing, a kickboxing match, Volkov with that reach, he knows how to use it, and he's at the top of these cards for a reason. So he's got, Aspinall, he really has to blend in all of his skill sets to get the win. I think he's got, what it takes to do that. We saw that in his Arlovsky fight. Nice little jump for him. It's been a nice slow burn, and I think this is a perfect opportunity for Aspinall to take that next step to a potential title shot in the near future.
Dan, so who'd you go with? Sorry, I was getting coffee. Who'd you go with?
I'm going with Aspinall.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't agree more. I don't know why he isn't the favorite in this fight. I think that Tom Aspinall can really get this done any way he wants. He's got great hands. Yeah, Alex Volkov's a tall drink of water, but he's old. He's war-torn. He's had a lot of fights. I do like veterans for sure. I do like guys with a lot of fights. I love experience, but Tom Aspinall is not to be stopped. I mean, Andre Arlovsky is no slouch. I mean, we've seen him go out there and beat up young guys in his last few fights. I love Andre Arlovsky, probably one of my favorite heavyweights of all time. I'm definitely going with Tom Aspinall on this one. And he is on the Euro Wonder Kangs.
And not to mention that, he got Andre Arlovsky out of there, one of the only guys of late to do so. I mean, Andre's getting put in there with young guys. He's getting put in there and he's winning. He's coming out on top at, 40-something years old. So it's not like Andre is this, dead in the water, old-ass man. I think that Andre Arlovsky, has looked better in some ways than I can't really say that. I was just trying to find a hot take, say that he looks better in some ways than Volkov. Volkov knocked Andre Alcer over him, the fuck out and kind of like sent him toppling backwards. That was very impressive. So Volkov is impressive, and I don't think he's over the hill yet either. But Triple P certify Tom Aspinall in London, home court advantage. Next up, we got Arnold Almighty Allen, AAA, taking on Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker, 4 years older, and he's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage and also a height advantage here, coming to face off at this weight of what is this fight going to be at 155 or 145? Because Almighty Alan, you know, he's a 145 pounder. That's his last weigh in. The younger man, the smaller man, but you know, Arnold Allen, man, this is a pick'em fight, and I think I'm gonna pick Arnold Almighty Allen just because, you know. And listen, let me be honest with you guys. I might look to you guys for some guidance with this one because I'm always on the wrong side of Dan Hooker, right? I picked Dan Hooker against Dustin Poirier. I picked Dan Hooker a lot of times, and I have come up short, right? If you take a look at Arnold Almighty Allen, dude, his most recent win against Sadiq Youssef has aged nicely. That was a fight that I picked Sadiq in. He's been in there with the likes of Gilbert Melendez. He's a UFC veteran of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a lot of fights, guys. I don't know. It's usually fade Canada. It's usually fade TriStar ever since they closed the borders to keep Alex Nye out of there. But I'm kind of thinking Arnold Allen, man. I'm kind of thinking Arnold Allen here. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm also siding with Arnold Allen. This card in general is a hornet's nest, man. There's some tough matchups to call. On this one, I'm gonna go with Allen. I think that the weight cut is a Hail Mary move by Hooker as far as his career goes. I think he's looking at 155. Doesn't see any avenues, but listen, this guy's been at 145. Didn't have all that much success there either. I mean, he was obviously a great fighter, but as far as, you know, penetrating a title shot, no. And the weight cut clearly got to him. Now he's even more chinny. He's already been a chinny guy. He's accumulated more knockouts. So I'm going to go with the hometown kid here, Arnold Allen. I could definitely see some circumstances where, you know, Dan Hooker lands a straight right and, you know, an up kick and, you know, does what Dan Hooker does. But I like Arnold Allen. I think he's he's up for the task here. I think it's going to be a British invasion coming to London Saturday night afternoon stateside.
It has to be. It has to be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Triple P certified Arnold Allen. He's going to go out there and get it done. I really like this kid. And, you know, I'm a big Dan Hooker guy as well, and it's hard to pick against him in this one. But I think of it just like the fight coming up. It's just like a rising star versus a guy who's kind of like been at the top of a division and just like floated around. Never really won a title, never really fought for a title. Was in like a title contender situation a couple times, but never seen one. I'm going with Arnold Allen. I just think he's a rising star. He's great. And like you said, Sadiq Youssef is a hammer. So the fact that he beat him up is good.
Absolutely. And that fight is going to be contested at 145. Dan Hooker is getting chased down to 145 to take on Arnold Allen after losing to Islam Makhachev. And you know, and it's not only Islam. I mean, he got the win over Nasrat Hapkras when Nasrat's right after Nasrat's mom died. But then, you know, so Bobby Green goes in and beats up Nasrat, and then both Bobby Green and Dan Hooker go and face the wood chipper that is Islam Makhachev, and the same result happened. So it's hard to really get a good read on like where Dan Hooker is, because his best fights, his biggest fights, have been against guys who are willing to fight his style of fight, Poirier and Paul Felder. But you know, Paul Felder and Poirier, they both, in my opinion, aren't that great, and those were close fights, like split decisions in a lot of ways. You kind of robbed Paul Felder a little bit there. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how good Dan Hooker is, but I think that this is an underdog spot for Hooker, and because he's so popular with City Kickboxing and Israel Adesanya is such a fan favorite, that makes this line more of a pick'em. But I think that Arnold Allen has the better pedigree and the better record, and it's his division. I mean, Dan Hooker caught weight to make 155, as far as I know. So how is he going to look at 145? I don't know. How's he going to look with that long flight? I don't know. How's he going to look being in Vegas and not being, you know, all the way over there in with his team? I don't know. But this next fight is the people's main event, as far as I'm concerned. We got Paddy the Baddy, Barstool Sports signed Paddy the Baddy Pimblett taking on Rodrigo Vargas. Now, this was supposed to be Flash Gordon versus Paddy the Baddy, but if I'm looking at the canceled and fizzled bouts, it says that was just never even the case. It was just never even the case. They, you know, Dana White announced that, and I guess all we can really anticipate is that Paddy declined it. is that Patty declined it. That's all we can really anticipate. And why would he decline it? I mean, is it because he's not going to knock Jared Gordon out? Is it because he's not going to submit Jared Gordon? Is it because Jared Gordon looked great against Joe Solecki, probably a better submission artist than Patty the Batty? I don't know, man. But I'm a little excited because I think he's got a much better shot against Rodrigo Vargas. Patty the Batty coming in there, 27 years old. He's going to have a 9-year age advantage. He's going to have a 2-inch height advantage. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. And he's taking on a guy who doesn't have that great of wrestling, a guy that he could probably take down, a guy that he could probably box up. I think he's a 10 favorite for a reason. And I think he goes in there and gets the win and is Mr. Primetime, Mr. Highlight Reel, and Mr. People's Main Event. So Patty the Batty for me.
Yeah, this is a minus 490 favorite last time I checked, so obviously not a lot of value here, but I think, we're getting to that evaluation for a reason. I love Patty the Batty. I think that this is something, a task that he can easily handle here. I like Vargas. He had a fun fight at UFC 271 or whatever it was, that Florida card where they first came back against Zhu Rong. Great fight. I think he's a tremendous fighter, but I think the skill set of Patty is going to just be too much here. Obviously, he's got a granite chin. He's good to go. This is a showcase fight if I've ever seen one. Give me Patty the Batty.
Yeah, I'm going with Patty the Batty, and I'm going to do something a little crazy right now. I'm dropping Colby Covington after dropping Patty the Batty to pick up Colby Covington. I'm dropping Colby Covington, pick up Patty the Batty again. Patty the Batty all day.
You're only 2 ad drops on the same swap.
We get four. I don't think Colby's fighting again this year. I'm picking up Patty the Batty. If Colby fights again this year, it's going to be November. So
there should be a rule that you can't pick up a guy the week that he's fighting.
Why?
Well, I know. I guess what we need to do is start doing that too, Dan. Because
I guess so.
Why?
You
can do it. Do you want Patty the Batty? You're first on the waivers.
No, I don't.
I'm taking Patty the Batty.
I think I'm winning the league so far.
No, you're not. Not in the slightest.
All right. Well, I need clarity into the teams and the score after this podcast is done. But in the meantime, that's fine. You can do that. And Dan, it's up to you to certify or not certify Patty the Batty.
No,
Dan gave his pick.
I already gave my pick. I'm picking Patty.
You're taking Patty the Batty too, Alex. Now, does anybody think we should just take Patty the Batty by finish?
No, I think Vargas is pretty durable.
So Patty the Batty by decision?
No, Patty the Batty by finish for sure.
Man, I've been screwed over so many times with
how about fight goes the distance, Dan?
Props. I just like going straight money line. That's
yeah, but when it's this kind of thing, I mean,
but it's a parlay. It's parlay.
I turned to the biggest favorite on the card last week. What's his name?
Magomed?
Umar Nurmagomedov. I turned Umar Nurmagomedov into an underdog by making him by finish. I've turned Valentina Shevchenko minus 1250 into an underdog by picking her against Jennifer Maia to win by decision. And I turned Kevin Holland, a gigantic favorite, into an underdog by picking him by finish as well. So I think that when you have these huge favorites, guys, they're huge favorites for a reason. And if you know the style of fight that they fight, then just pick how it's going to go.
Well, Vargas has never been finished. And
he's Mexican, and those guys have chins like no other. Yeah. So I think he's pretty damn tough, and I don't think Patty's going to knock him out. And if Patty goes in there with the way that he fought against Luigi Vendramini, he might get himself knocked out. So
yeah.
Actually, this one's tough to call. I think fight doesn't go the distance, and I think it's either Patty getting the submission, like a heel hook or something crazy like that, or I think it's Vargas getting a knockout.
Yeah, if Vargas wins, I don't see him winning on the scores. I see a knockout.
Patty's so reckless that I don't see him winning on the scores. And he got so fat. He got so fat in his last fight between. So it's like, is he going to be in great shape? He had to get back into shape just to get into shape. So it's like, I think fight does not go the distance is the best way to play this one.
I'm a little bit scarred because I put the Kennedy Moutinho fight for over 2.5 rounds. And I put the semi versus, I forget, AJ Fletcher to be a finish either way. And I was obviously screwed both times. So I'm a little bit scarred from that. And I'm personally looking to play money lines. But, to your point, these might not be the worst plays ever if you're going especially for like non-parlay, just single bets.
Well, and whenever guys go like, oh, this one has to be a finish because this guy is super dynamic, exciting, and he's a knockout guy, and this guy's super dynamic, exciting, he's a knockout guy. That's always when you want to take the very supple and value, like in terms of the line, the value play in the over or fight does go the distance. Because think about the examples we've had: Chaos Williams versus Michelle Pahea, like went to decision.
Ngannou Lewis.
Cyril Gane versus what's his name? Francis Ngannou. Like goes to decision. So I think, and it's Ngannou by decision too, which everybody says, oh, it could never be. So what we have to keep in mind every week is that every week we are surprised. Every week we were surprised in some form, one way or another. Some weeks we're not surprised in the areas we didn't think we were going to be surprised. But there's always a surprise at one point or another. There's always a surprise. So you got to identify where these surprises are going to be. And it's only a surprise to the line, right? It's only a surprise to the betting public. So think, well, what is the betting public too high on right now? What do they think is going to happen too much? And then you can kind of easily see where your opportunities are. But anyway, let's move on to the fourth fight from the top on the main card.
It's not a lie if you believe it, Jerry.
We've trophy certified every single fight so far, yeah?
Yes.
Allen, and Pimblett. All of them are hometown boys. We got them all winning. Let's see if we can get another somewhat hometown boy out of Reykjavik, Iceland. Gunnar Nelson taking on Takashi Sato. We know there's never been a Japanese champion in the UFC. This guy Sato is coming off a loss. Gunnar's coming off of back-to-back losses. The only thing I hate about this fight is the line, right? Because you got Gunnar Nelson, a minus 350 favorite, coming off of 2 losses, 3 out of 3-2 in his last 5. You got Sato, who's 2 coming off a loss as well, and is 2-3 in his last 5, 2 losses and 3 wins. So he's taking on Gunnar Nelson, SBG Ireland. Man, SBG Ireland has looked so bad as of late, right? I mean, you got guys getting knocked out left and right over there. Sanford MMA, Sato, plus 270 underdog. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I mean, I really was high on Gunnar Nelson. I think that he's a winner. I think that he's a warrior. I think that he's better than he's shown. He's 33 years old. He's not over the hill yet. The guys he's fighting are hammers, right? Leon Edwards, split decision loss. Gilbert Burns, this unanimous decision loss. Hasn't fought since 3 years later. Santiago Ponzinibbio, that's, another fine loss. Maya, it's like he's losing to good guys. He's beating decent guys. But Sato is the more active guy. I mean, Sato is coming off that loss to Miguel Baeza in 2020, but also hasn't fought in 2 years. So I'm going with Gunnar Nelson. But this is not a good value play. I'm going to tell you that. I don't like paying a heavy price tag on Gunnar when he's coming off back-to-back losses, hasn't fought in a long time. If Sato was a little bit more active coming out of Sanford MMA, I would take him. But, it's just like all things equal, I think Gunnar is the better fighter. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I totally agree. This is one that I'm really running away from. The evaluation on Gunnar Nelson as a close to minus 500 favorite is absolutely ridiculous. Like you said, Gunnar Nelson took the words right out of my mouth. 2 straight losses, quality opponents, but the bigger thing is 3 years off. I mean, that is a ridiculous amount of time to take off. I don't know what the deal was. Was it? I mean, what kind of injuries does this guy have? I don't know. Maybe you guys know, but if he's taken 3 years off, that's not a nothing injury for sure. Let alone the rust that will probably come from this. So
was it visa? Was it visa?
Visa? A 3-year visa issue?
Well, I'm saying like if he couldn't make it to the Fight Island cards for whatever reason, and couldn't make it to America, there wasn't a ton of opportunity for somebody from Iceland in 2020, 2021, and now it's 2022, and here he is. A guy like him is very mentally strong, and if he was shaking off those 2 losses, forgetting about those 2 losses, I almost like it better. If he was going in there against, he's going in there against, a hungrier 170-pounder than Sato, who's also been sidelined, then, I might consider fading Nelson, but it's really hard to do so when his opponent has had just as much time off.
Yeah, it's just hard to tell with Sato because he's his two UFC losses are Miguel Baeza and Bilal Muhammad. So we're talking about the fights that Gunnar Nelson's had and the wins and losses, the quality of losses, right? These are pretty
Yeah.
quality losses in Sato's own right. He's knocking out Jason Witt, who we know is pretty durable. Knocked him out in the first round, pretty quality there. And whatever, he also knocked out Ben Saunders, who's obviously pretty much retired. Yeah, listen, I'll go with Gunnar Nelson, I guess, just because the wrestling will be there, the submissions will be there. He's got decent karate style distance management striking, but man, that price tag is way too rich for me.
Alex,
You're up.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot I was on mute. I don't know, man. I think Takashi Sato is definitely a live dog in this one. I wouldn't put all my eggs in the Gunnar Nelson basket for sure, and I'm not going to put all my eggs in the Takashi Sato basket either. It's not going to be a play I'm going to have in many parlays, but it will be in my perfect parlay. I'm taking Takashi Sato this time.
all right, let's move on. We're not certified. That's the first one. We're not sure we'll be certifying. And we have two more fights on the main card to break down. We got Shamil Abdurakhimov versus Sergey Pavlovich. 14-1 Russian, 25th ranked heavyweight worldwide, trying to emerge into the top 15 by taking on the 15 ranked heavyweight Shamil Abdurakhimov. And everything we hear about Shamil is that he's a mysterious figure. He's 40 years old, maybe. He's 258 pounds. 6'3", 76-inch reach, taking on Sergey, who, Eagles MMA, really all you need to know. Moscow, Russia. He's got 84-inch reach, right? So he's going to absolutely tower over Shamil. I think the favorite is a favorite here for a reason. He's minus 300. I don't hate it as much as I hate the Gunnar Nelson line. I'm taking Pavlovich here, and I think Father's plan is going to get back on track with him.
Yeah, like you said, another line I really don't like. A little bit better than Gunnar Nelson at minus 300 and a little bit more favorable. This is a weird fight in two ways. Number one, on the Shamil side, this is a guy who can look like a pretty good fighter, a pretty serviceable fighter who can take guys down, make it a grimy, Russian wrestling affair. That's why he's been ranked in the heavyweight division for so long, even though heavyweight is probably the easiest division to get a ranking in. But then he's also looked like absolute dog shit and just getting knocked out. Whereas on the other side of this thing, we have Sergey Pavlovich, also hasn't fought since 3 years ago, and his opponents have been Maurice Green and who he's got here, Marcelo Golm, who obviously isn't in the UFC anymore. So there's a lot to learn from this fight, in my opinion. I'll go with Pavlovich, the younger guy, the bigger guy, the guy who has finishing ability. But at minus 300, this is the second fight that I'm going to be shying away from here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Sergey as well. Make it a triple P certification here. Luke, I love that you said it. Father's plan. He's back on track. You lose one to Alistair Overeem. Alistair Overeem's the greatest heavyweight to ever live.
Mic drop. Okay. All right. Perfect. So we are going to move right along. This is going to be the final fight on the main card for our breakdown here. Nikita Krylov versus Paul Craig. Man. This one I had a lot of trouble with at first, and then the line made it easier for me. I've taken the reins first every time here. I'll let you start it off, Dan.
Yeah, Paul Craig is a interesting character. He's got one of the coolest, most interesting resumes to really dig into here. So he can lose to Tyson Pedro via knockout, but beat Magomed Ankalaev, Kennedy Njoku, Jamal Hill, also lose to Alonzo Menifield, right? So this guy's just all over the place. Nikita Krylov, I mean, if anything, he's pretty consistent. His only losses are to Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira, two champs, and Magomed Ankalaev, who I think, even though with a subpar performance a couple days ago, I think he's a future champ. So I'm going to go with Krylov. I think he's little more well-rounded. He's just got to stay away from the submission. I think he has the skills to do that. Again, this is where just having all, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and striking, even if you're not the best, just being adequate enough to stay out of your opponents, what they're really good at, and utilize what they're bad at, which you also are adequate at, right? So I'll take Krylov here. Slight little favorite, minus 180, minus 190, I think something like that. But give me Krylov.
Thank you, but I'll take the Bear Jew here. He hasn't lost in quite a long time. You said the Tyson Pedro loss. That's probably the worst one he has. Other than that, he has Bangkok ready, Khalil Roundtree, Mr. Bangkok ready. He showed that this past weekend. Khalil Roundtree is a dog. Jimmy Crute is also a beast. He beat Paul Craig. And other than that, he's been unblemished besides the Alonzo Menafield and the Tyson Pedro. Those are two bad losses. But I think he goes out there and he does what he does. He gets him in a triangle or something crazy, gets him in an armbar. Paul Craig's the man. His striking isn't actually that bad. So he's pretty well-rounded. I think he gets it done here.
All right. So I'm going to go with Paul Craig as well. To me, seeing him as an underdog here, coming off the hot streak he's been on lately, solidified it. I think that he can beat Krylov. But I was a little weary at first because I was like, Paul Craig, in his efforts to get a submission, might eat some big shots from Krylov, right? On the ground. He might eat some elbows and just get put on Queer Street. The fight might get stopped. He might not agree with it. He might be ready to fight, but he's Scottish. He's a warrior. He's been on a media tour. He's been really getting out there a lot. I think the UFC really likes Paul Craig. I certainly do. His win against Jamal Hill surprised me. I think that has aged like a fine wine after seeing Jamal Hill go out there and beat the shit out of Walker. So, yeah, I'm going with Paul Craig here. Value play, underdog play, getting disrespected. My man Paul Craig's going to let him know. He's going to show him what's what. And that concludes our main card breakdown. Of the main card, we have 4 Triple certified picks for you. Aspinall, Allen, Patty, and Pavlovich. That's 4.
Wait, no.
Bro, you're killing the momentum here. I'm like doing a thing here. And you're saying
I picked another one against you, I think.
What do you mean? What do you like? If you have something to say it. But don't just like do this. Like now there's dead air.
I picked Takashi Santo. I didn't pick Gunnar Nelson.
I didn't say you did.
Oh, sorry.
I said Aspinall, Allen, Patty the Batty, and Pavlovich. Those are the 4 main card Triple certified picks.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I was doing a thing there. Okay. Next time, raise your hand. Those are your 4 Triple main card certified picks. If you get the rest of the Triple certified picks, join us on the Patreon for the prelims breakdowns, the uncensored prelims prediction show. We will be breaking everything down from here on out. And at the end of it, we'll run through our full picks on the Patreon channel. For now, guys, join us on the Patreon. And if you don't mind, throw a like on this video, throw a comment on this video, help us grow, help us get seen, help us get out there, and share it with one of your friends who also like sports betting. The Patreon predictions are up. The Triple certified picks are also up. And thank you very much. Please join us on that Patreon. I will literally DM you every open bet that I place once I make them. And then all throughout the fight, I will comment my live bets on that thread. So if you want to track your bets with me, if you want to tail me, if you want to bet with the Patreon, go ahead and do that. Alex, Dan, anything you want to say to the YouTube audience on our way out here?
Love you.
Love you guys.